Hello, everyone. I'm with my good buddy Sean, and he's very knowledgeable about World War One and World War Two. But today we are going to be talking about World War One and the fear of the individuals and the people who participated in the war.
Yep.
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
What were the soldiers most afraid of when fighting in the trenches, and how did constant danger shape their daily mindset?
Well, I think starting off with fear, I think it's like every other war, you're gonna have fear. I think what the people were most afraid of, especially fighting in the trenches, was just not knowing what's gonna happen. And you're living in a trench. You're living, in terrible conditions, and there's a lot of things that can kill you, not just bullets, disease, stuff like that. So, and how that changed their mindset. I mean, you kind of just grow into it. Suppose that's what you have to do because you have to survive. So, yeah.
Very good. I agree a lot there.
Yeah.
How did the fear of new weapons like poison gas change the way soldiers experienced war?
Well, that is just, you have the poison gas itself, which is terrifying. I mean, there's some have a color to it. Sometimes there's certain gases that you couldn't even tell when it was, when the shell hit. So, and not just, itself as a poison gas, it's what it left on the soldiers, like what it did to their bodies when someone is hit with this poison gas. I think that definitely had a neurological effect on the soldiers, seeing their comrades just completely dismembered from this stuff, rashes and all sorts of terrible things. So,
yeah, I can totally see that changing how, really affecting the soldiers' mindsets, how they went about everything with just constant fear. In what ways did fear affect soldiers' behavior, decision-making, and morale on the battlefield?
You just got to be a lot more cautious. Fear makes you cautious, so I just think a lot of decisions were, based on being cautious and not trying to get themselves or their men, especially officers, not letting their men get put in harm's way, even when the generals who weren't fighting were putting them in harm's way every day, making them keep push for not even, yards. These guys moved over years for yards. They didn't even get, miles. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that being very demoralizing. How did civilians experience fear in World War I, especially those living near the front lines in bombed cities?
It's a good question. I think it's a huge psychological thing, just because you're feeling the war is coming towards you and you're seeing all these wounded men be carted around your towns and you're hearing the shells and seeing all these things. So it kind of brings the war to home. So, yeah, I think that definitely plays a huge psychological effect on the civilians living near the front lines and such.
Yeah, and you're living with just the constant fear of never knowing. The fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
What role did propaganda play in either increasing fear or calming public anxiety during the war?
Well, during World War I and World War II, you saw constant two kinds of propaganda. You have national pride, which is like the Uncle Sam, want you to sign up for the U.S. Army and such. And then there's the other one that makes the enemy look like these monsters that are coming to, take your family and your country and such. So I think propaganda definitely increased public anxiety, but it also made especially the fighting men want to go out and protect.
Yeah.
More.
It kind of helped boost, how do I say it, national pride.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of this is our country. Let's fight for us. How did fear contribute to psychological conditions like shell shock among soldiers?
Well, World War I is the first war that shell shock was actually finally recognized, because wars before that was just battle fatigue, and it was just whatever, it goes away. But that's when we started to really see advanced PTSD in soldiers coming back, and these guys were being thrown in psych wards because no one really knew what to do about it until I think the 1930s. They finally were late 1920s were all right, maybe there's a certain psychological effect that that has. But you could get PTSD from a lot of things, and I think constantly fearing and stuff like that is definitely a huge.
Yeah, I can 100% see that. And when you're stuck in the trenches for days, months upon end without knowing when you're going to be home or anything, I can see a lot of people just collapsing and not being able to continue. How did soldiers cope with fear, and what strategies did they use to stay mentally strong?
I think it was the camaraderie. I mean, you really just had each other to, like, based on definitely little things. I mean, if you look at like colored images, like the French army has a lot of colored like videos of them just kind of like hanging out, like the Battle of Verdun, which is one of the most deadly, bloody battles of World War One. You see videos of these guys just all playing cards, like sharing wine with each other and stuff like that. So I think they had to cope with fear by just having each other and having each other's 100%. Backs.
I mean, in a situation like that, you only have the people around you, and you have to. You're all going through the same thing, so you have to figure it out. So, final question for the podcast: why do you think fear became such a defining emotional experience of World War I compared to earlier wars?
Well, earlier wars, the public never really got wind of much that was going on. I think World War I, you can argue, is like the first war that, like I said, you have shell shock coming home. These people come back to their families and they're completely changed. I mean, completely. So it just it was just a really brutal and scary war. There's new weapons like shotguns and stuff like that being put on the battlefield, gas, all tanks, all sorts of heavy artillery planes. So it's like, I mean, you have all these things that it really was scary to see, because you could see what man can do to each other when they're at war, and the atrocities that can happen. So I think World War I is probably one of the most brutal, and it definitely left a huge impact on mankind. I mean, it's the Great War. So yeah, I don't think it's just, it really kind of amplified fear, gave the public fear, and yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, thank you very much for coming on today,
taking
a piece of your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.